Hi children, how are you all? It's been long time we haven't met, and whenever we have met it's just because we want to read some chapter, cover some syllabus. It's CBSE, it's class this and that. Today I want to tell you a story. Yes, I love narrations. And this story is about a very beautiful goddess, Goddess Lakshmi. Have you heard of Goddess Lakshmi? If not, just go and ask your parents who is Goddess Lakshmi. I just bumped into this old book of mine which was kept in my library somewhere underneath, and I was just looking for certain book and suddenly I saw this book, and let me tell you, it's a treasure. It's a beautiful book, The Most Beautiful Child. The cover page is somewhat like this. The story is by Devjani Chatterjee, and beautiful, wonderful pictures are given by, the illustrations are given by Biman Malik. The Most Beautiful Child. I am sure children will love this story, but before that, they got to know about Goddess Lakshmi. The Lakshmi owl. Let me just pause here. Why Lakshmi owl? You know, in India we have got around 33 crores gods and goddesses, and each and every god or goddess has a vehicle of his or her own, and the vehicle is none other than either an animal or a bird. So here Goddess Lakshmi's vehicle is an owl. Yes, so the Lakshmi owl stared at the goddess with unblinking eye. The owl thought that Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth and good fortune, was the kindest and the loveliest of the goddesses in heaven. So what did the owl think? That Lakshmi, who is the goddess of wealth and good fortune, is the kindest and loveliest and prettiest goddess in heaven. Precious stones and wonderful jewels sparkled on her hair and body. She was wearing precious stones, beautiful jewels around her neck and everything on her head. She had those wonderful rings, finger rings, and with those beringed fingers she used to explain everything to everybody. And she was all from top to toe, she was all or in just studded with ornaments. Her hair and body sparkled and shined. The owl adored her and was very proud to be her pet. Yes, the owl was her pet and actually adored her, loved her to the core, was so affectionate about her. The owl often served as Lakshmi's eyes and ears. She told the goddess all the news of the heaven, of the earth, of all three planets, of everywhere around, of the gardens, of the mountains, of the plateaus, of the volcanoes, of the seas, of the oceans. And Lakshmi's owl was a kind of news reader to her. She would carry messages and help her in many little ways. Lakshmi's owl, who was a female here, she would carry messages and help her in many little, big, small ways. Owl was always there to assist Goddess Lakshmi in each and every way possible. Sometimes the owl would change her size and become a giant bird. Then Lakshmi would climb on her back and the owl would fly swiftly the goddess wherever she wanted to go. So whenever Goddess Lakshmi wanted to go anywhere, it was very convenient for the owl to become enormous, turn into a giant, and then Lakshmi would swiftly get on the owl and Lakshmi would fly wherever she wanted to. One day, what happened? Lakshmi was sitting in her garden, enjoying the cool breeze blowing through the perfumed flowers. The owl watched her from a nearby tree. She never tired of looking at the goddess. The owl was so mesmerized by the beauty of Goddess Lakshmi that she was never tired of looking at her day and night, 24/7, 365 days. Lakshmi had removed a shining gold necklace from her neck, from her throat, and was playfully twirling it around her fingers like this. She was silent and she was thoughtful. She was just, thinking about something very deep. And she was just turning around the necklace like this, thinking somewhere in vain, maybe little thoughtless, little blank, but little thoughtful as well. What the goddess was doing? Why is she twirling the necklace? So she flew down and sat on Lakshmi's knee. Yes, on the knee. Tell me, goddess Lakshmi, she begged, please, she pleaded, please tell me, why have you taken off that beautiful necklace? What will you do with it? The owl was so curious, so anxious. Why you have taken out the necklace? It's such a beautiful necklace. You don't need to just take it out, remove it. It just adorns your neck. It looks so beautiful there. Why, my pet? The goddess replied. I was thinking that I would like to give this necklace to someone very, very special. Who to? Asked the owl. Whom do you want to give that beautiful necklace to? Who will you give it to? Goddess Lakshmi, please tell me. Who will be the lucky person? She shifted her weight from one foot to another and then to other, and her head swayed from side to side, side to side. She knew that the goddess often gave gold and silver jewelry to people on earth. The goddess answered, smiling, yes, this is the very question I've been asking myself. And who have you decided on? Asked the owl. Who? The owl is getting impatient. Yes, whom have you decided on? She nudged Lakshmi's hand with her feathery white head. What happens next? It's interesting to note here. Well, said Lakshmi, as it's a most beautiful necklace, I have decided it should belong to the most beautiful child of all. The most beautiful child on earth will have this necklace of mine, which is the most precious necklace ever. It's studded with diamonds, the rubies, the gems, the garnets, the moonstones, everything all in all. Who? Asked the owl, shaking her head, blinking in impatience. Who is that lucky one? Who is the most beautiful child on the earth? Please tell me, goddess. You will decide that for me, dear owl, my friend, you will decide it for me, said the smiling goddess. Take this necklace and fly around the universe. Look and find out who's the most beautiful child of all. Put this around their neck. I know that you will make the right choice. Now Goddess Lakshmi has put everything, this job's burden or this job's pressure, on the head of this cute little owl. Carefully, the owl held the necklace in her beak and flew away on this important duty. And what was the duty? To find the most beautiful child on the planet. The Lakshmi owl circled over the gardens, lakes, palaces of heaven. She flew over the mountains, across the rivers, and down the green valleys, looking at every child of heaven. What happens next? It's not just strange, it's beautiful too. Then she flew to earth. Her round eyes peered through the window of every home, every school, every garden, every road, everywhere. She stared through the cabin windows of ships. She went on to the airplanes. She went everywhere on the trees. She stared through the thick glass of windows of airplanes. She looked at all the children of every country on earth. Was she able to find out the most beautiful child? Let's see. Several days passed by. before the owl returned to her mistress. "Goddess Lakshmi, I'm back," said the bird. She fluffed her snowy white feathers. "I have done as you had asked. I looked at all the children on earth and in heaven. I gave your precious necklace to the most beautiful of all, my dear goddess." "Well done, my pet," said Lakshmi, clapping her hands. "Tell me, was it difficult to make your choice? Who was the most beautiful child of all?" "It was the easiest task in the world, goddess," replied the owl without blinking an eyelid. "I peeped into every home and looked at every single child." "And then what happened?" "But though there are many sweet and lovely children, there was really no choice at all. None of them could match my own little owlet. The most beautiful child of all is my baby, fast asleep in our nest. I have given the necklace to her." Then, what happens next? The goddess laughed and laughed and laughed and was so happy. And she stretched out her arms, her lovely, beautiful arms. The Lakshmi owl spread its wings. And then she flew towards the goddess and hugged her. Lakshmi stroked the owl's feathers lovingly and said, "Yes, you have done very well. You have made the right choice, my dear owl, my dear pet. In every mother's eyes," listen to this very carefully, "in every mother's eyes, her own child is the most beautiful of all." True? Very true. Listen to the last line very carefully. In every mother's eyes, her own child is the most beautiful of all. So this was the most wonderful story I've ever read, a short and sweet one named The Most Beautiful Child. I hope you loved it as much as I did. Love you all.